Los Angeles is burning. This isn't just about broken glass or stolen goods. This is about a broken spirit in America. This week, protests turned violent. And now organizers are calling for chaos to spread to all 50 states on June 14th. Lawlessness is here. The Bible warns us, for the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. From 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 7. And today, we see a culture that calls evil good and good evil, just like in Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. This isn't just politics, it's spiritual warfare, faith and freedom, the conversation. Join us as we uncover the truth behind the riots, the agenda behind the protests, and the battle raging for the soul of this nation. Like, share, and subscribe. You don't want to miss this explosive conversation. Your voice matters. Stand for truth and stand for freedom.
Welcome to Faith and Freedom, the conversation where faith and politics collide. We bring you real, honest discussions on the issues shaping America through a biblical lens. Here are your hosts, Kathy Ryan and LaTanya Evans.
Hey there.
Hello.
Welcome.
There. United we stand.
Yes, united we stand. This shirt is more appropriate today, this week than ever. You know,
Yes.
just. Hi, Chris. Thank you for being here. It just it's heartbreaking to me. What is going on is absolutely heartbreaking. You know, here in my state, you know,
Yes.
it's just, I can't believe that we're going through this again. You know,
I
we
know.
went through this in 2020. Well, here in Southern California, we've been through this a few times. And I got a clip from 1992, the Rodney King riots, and all of that. And at that time, I worked in Pasadena. I was less than 10 miles away from the riots there. And it was spreading.
Wow.
It was spreading. And I remember saying, I got to get home from work. I got to go. I got to get home before it gets night, before it's dark, and all hell breaks loose. Excuse me for saying that, but yes. So
Oh wow.
it's
Wow.
crazy. So tonight we're talking about the LA riots. So for those
Yes.
of you that don't watch the news or don't know what's going on, I have a clip here from Flashpoint, which they showed a clip from Fox News on what's going on. So I'm going to cue that up.
Okay. And please, everyone, don't forget to like and share on both of our channels, on Faith and Freedom Talk and on Real Talk, Real Solutions. And share. And we want you to be interactive with us as well. Please. We have a lot to unpack tonight.
Yeah, it's a jam-packed show. So stick around. There's a lot going on and a lot of background. We've got a lot of history and background to explain what is happening with all of this. So yeah, please stay with us. As LaTanya said, like, subscribe, comment. We want to hear from you. Okay, here we go.
Agitators fighting with police, some of them waving foreign flags, and we've seen people hurling rocks and bottles at police cars, some even smashing windows at the LAPD headquarters.
So, Dana, the rioters are also torching a row of Waymo driverless taxis that are in use in Los Angeles. Meanwhile, police forced to shut down the 101 freeway after protesters ground traffic to a halt. President Trump deploying thousands of National Guard troops and saying the federal response could escalate from here.
What is the bar for sending Marines?
The bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.
You said the active on the table, sir. Secretary
we're going to see what we need. We'll send whatever we need to make sure there's law and order.
I like you should keep saying law and order. Now,
so that was a little bit of a clip of what has gone on. Pretty much every night this week since Friday. It hasn't stopped. It's gotten better. They talked about, the Marines being deployed, and 700 Marines were deployed from 29 Palms, which is out here about an hour and a half from me in the desert. I'm in between 29 Palms and Camp Pendleton. So Marines are been deployed. The National Guard's been deployed. And of course, there is an uproar on whether President Trump had the authority to do so. So there are certain provisions in the Constitution that allows him to do that. And I got a clip here. I'm going to here that will, I think this is it. Okay, so I think this is the one. It's Rick Green. He is the owner of Patriot Academy, where I have taken biblical civics and learned about the history of America and the Constitution. So a lot of my knowledge comes from him. So I hope this is the right one, but we will find out.
Going on all summer, right? It's over 20 times. It's a dozen different presidents that have invoked insurrection acts and done this sort of thing. Most of the time, Democrats, and a third of the time, it was LBJ and Kennedy. They accounted for a third of the invoking of insurrection acts and doing this kind of thing. And of course, we remember Eisenhower doing it for those 9 black kids, trying to get them into the school there in Little Rock, I believe it was. So, I think Mark's point is exactly right. It's not incredibly rare. It's been done, like I said, by over a dozen different presidents. I don't remember the time frame of how long it took in 92. It doesn't seem like once they sent in federal troops, it lasted much longer. But man, my memory's not that good. I don't remember on that one.
All right, let's talk about Newsom's challenge, because he was getting a little testy there. He did not like being called out.
So I'm going to pause right there, because the next clip there is pretty good about Newsom going bananas. And because, the big old fight was, and that wasn't the whole clip. But there is an article, there is a provision in the Constitution that allows President Trump to call in the troops. And especially when they're interfering with federal officers, federal law enforcement, protection of federal property, which, they were outside the federal court building in downtown LA, beating the curbs and all of that stuff. And this all started because of the ICE raids in LA. Well, the history behind that is that this was a case that had been investigated since 2014 of trafficking of people through the garment district. And so this was an ongoing investigation. So it finally got to the point where they were able to go in and arrest people. This wasn't necessarily a deportation exercise. They didn't specifically go there to deport people. This was actually a criminal investigation. You're muted, LaTanya.
Oh, sorry.
That's
wow.
Okay. So, everybody's, throwing it up, and all the left-wing liberals are saying, well, it's about immigration and deportation. ICE wasn't there for that. And President Trump and Newsom earlier this week, sued President Trump for bringing in the National Guard.
Wow.
Well, the LAPD, even Chief McCullough, he said that they were overwhelmed by this. And it took LAPD the first day of the riots to respond. It took them 2 hours. And now it's come out is that Mayor Bass told them to stand down.
To stand down. While the city is burning.
Yeah.
So why? Why does the mayor want? You got wow.
It's like, the narrative for all of this, and and that's what these politicians are doing. If Trump's involved in anything, it's bad, orange man bad, and they're going to fight against it.
Yeah. Wow. That is. And what about Newsom?
Well, listen to this. This is how he's responded to all of this.
In fact, let's go to Fox News. This is Kayleigh McEnany and her thoughts on the challenge. Watch.
Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, had some tough words yesterday on MSNBC. Let's watch.
Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me.
So the Tom he is talking about is Tom Homan, and Tom Homan was on Fox and Friends this morning. Listen here.
When you cross that line, you put hands on an ICE officer, or you destroy property, or I say that you're impede law enforcement, or you're knowingly harboring, concealing illegal alien, that's a crime. And the Trump administration is not going to tolerate it. You cross that line, we're going to seek prosecution in the Department of Justice. Then the reporter asked me, well, could Governor Newsom or Mayor Bass be arrested? I said, well, no one's above the law.
Kayleigh McEnany, your thoughts this morning?
No one is above the law. We see that with Judge Hannah Dugan, who's being prosecuted for aiding and abetting these illegal immigrants and obstructing an official proceeding. Look, President Trump, I was there as press secretary during the summer of 2020, during the riots. I've had many, many discussions with him about his views of the National Guard, about the military. President Trump really views this as an escalatory ladder. He expects the states to patrol their streets as the 10th Amendment calls for. They have the police power. He's not hesitant to use the National Guard when needed. He used it in D.C. when St. John's Church was burning. He says, if you don't act, I will. And then the military is a last resort, and he has that power under the Insurrection Act. But we saw very clearly during my tenure what happens when you don't act. We saw that in Minnesota. We saw that on May 27th when a Target burned, when other stores burned. The police chief in Minnesota said, hey, we need the National Guard. Tim Walz made the decision to deploy the National Guard on a limited basis to protect the state capitol complex. And guess what happened that night? The 3rd precinct burned. Yeah. So every hour counts. Every minute counts. Gavin Newsom has delayed in this matter, and President Trump is saying, I'm not going to delay.
He's not going to delay. It's a good thing because they're burning things. They're burning cars.
They're not only burning cars, but they are throwing rocks, boulders on top of these cars.
They are.
Like,
yeah. They're not, and then they keep saying that, these are peaceful protests. And
there's nothing peaceful about that.
No, here's Maxine Waters saying there's no violence. This is their narrative.
Wow.
And even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head.
Not
And
yet.
so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know. And I went from downtown detention back out into the community, talking to people what happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton, what happened in Inglewood. So, first of all, get it straight. And don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you saw.
Well, that's not violent.
I know, right?
There's no cars burning. That woman's delusional.
Basically, no, she very much know what she's doing. It's just that bad. So basically, in her eyes, she said, if nobody's gotten killed, if nobody has gotten shot, then it's not violence. But if it rises to that level, it's violence. Hey, Keith, thank you for joining. I know. What do you all think in the comment section? What do you think about this?
Because they did the same thing in 2020, the quote unquote summer of love. You know,
Summer of love.
They called the 2020 riots, you know, and there were no riots, they were peaceful protests, you know, because of George Floyd. And then, you know, the BLM riots.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what they called it.
They called it the summer of love. That's what the media named it.
Summer of love.
Yeah, summer of violence is what it was. But you know, LA since then, because of the BLM riots and defund the police movement, Los Angeles Police Department has lost 50% of their officers, either from layoffs or people quitting.
Wow.
So they do not have a large enough police force in the city of Los Angeles to protect the city. They just don't.
Right.
And the National Guard and the Marines are there. They're standing guard over federal buildings. They're not arresting people.
Right.
Right now, they do not have the authority to do that.
Right.
And, you know, I've seen some crazy posts on Facebook this week about the Marines that, you know, they should grow a conscience and not be there and defy orders. And there are pictures of them laying on the floor waiting.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, that's no way to treat our military. When they're getting ready to deploy and they're in the station to deploy, and they are taught this through boot camp.
They're taught to do that.
My son did the last test to get out of boot camp was an overnight drill of being attacked on a ship because he's in the Navy. So they have to stay awake for 24 hours. They have to, there's smoke, there's all kinds of stuff. They have to help their fellow sailors and all of this stuff. They are taught this to be in the military. And you know, you've on a military base, if you see these hangars and you know, a unit's getting ready to deploy, these soldiers are all over the place. And
exactly.
Carl Higbie, being a former SEAL, on one of the segments, and I was going to show it tonight, but I'm not got too much other stuff. But he says that's normal when you're getting ready to go in, and you learn. You better take a nap now and get some sleep because God only knows when you'll get the chance to do it again.
Exactly. And that's what was reported on another station correctly about.
Right.
And anyone who has some familiarity with military know that is not like, oh, they don't have a place to sleep, and oh no.
Right. Yep. So, they're making a big deal out of it that they're being treated terribly, that Trump shouldn't be doing this. And then the other thing too is, what about the cost? Well, what about the cost of destruction? Because FEMA's going to have to come here and pay for all of that. So the government's going to pay for it one way or another. Either it's going to be paid for through FEMA, or it's going to be paid for the military to protect it.
Right.
And why, Governor Abbott in Texas, San Antonio, they're having major protests there too. He immediately deployed 7,000 National Guards. Immediately.
How many? 7,000?
7,000.
7,000? Wow. That's
so
a lot.
What did Trump deploy here to LA? 3,700 Marines.
Wow. That's
and now they've been rioting. What is this? The seventh day?
Wow.
So going back to these people telling these soldiers to stand down and just obey orders. They took an oath.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to show it to you.
Okay.
So here, let me share my screen. Okay. So when you enlist in the military, you take this oath. And I had the pleasure of watching my son take the oath again last week when he re-enlisted. So here it is. I state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to the regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
Yeah. It's a serious oath. It is. It is.
Yep. So when they say that they have no business being there on American soil, so what? Our military is only supposed to go fight wars on other countries, on foreign soil, not here?
No.
That oath right there says domestic.
Domestic. That's here.
What happened when Pearl Harbor was attacked?
Mm-hmm.
Did they immediately go to Japan and fight the war? No, they were here defending the United States on American soil. Come on, people. Don't be stupid.
Well, Kathy, this is the thing. Because our military, and thank God for this, we have been able to keep it away from, American soil.
Exactly.
And it's like when we see war happening in other countries on their soil, we have been able to keep it away.
Right.
Now, these pop-up situations that are happening, which would fall up under domestic. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, as I'm still learning this. So you have each state, they have their force of protection, like the police department. Then you have the National Guard. Now, then they have the National Guards. Okay, but if that is not cutting it, and the president is giving them chance after chance to do something, then the military, meaning the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, they are the president's military, or what you say, where he can not just, I know orders and different things, but he can dispatch them, right? They fall up under him. The state have police.
Right. So the president is the commander in chief over the military. So he's the top of the top. Okay.
Okay.
Right. And if he says go, you go.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So here's another thing too. Every single elected official in the United States takes this pretty much the same oath. So this is the federal office. I want the state of California. Elected official oath. So every elected official. So here, this is what Governor Newsom, his oath when he came to office, this is what he had to say. I, his name, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. So when he doesn't want the National Guard here, when he's allowing property to be destructed, he's allowed fireworks, commercial fireworks, and rocks and bricks and all of this thrown at peace officers. And now they're also doing it at the National Guard and the Marine Corps and our Marines. Right. He's in violation of his oath.
Right. I wonder, does everybody know why these protests started in the first place?
Yes.
Do we need to kind of bring people up to speed? Because some people may not know why this started. So, Kathy, can you tell them, why did this start? And to kind of bring people up to speed, why are they protesting? Why are they doing what they're doing?
Yeah. So I got a clip here. This is from Glenn Beck. And he explains it. Hold on. It always starts on me. So here we go.
Okay.
And he explains what actually is going on. It's a little bit long clip. I'm not going to show the whole thing, but it's about 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, it's really interesting, the power of the narrative here. Top of X today. In the news, Trump's unrequested guard deployment sparks LA riots. No, that's not what is happening, but the narrative is already shifting because they're very good at narratives. And some people know that, the protests look more like a Middle East color revolution. Did I say that out loud? Yes, I did. And on national broadcast. It's not a free speech protest. It has nothing to do with anything other than a color revolution. And adding Adam Kinzinger, he said, peaceful protests are fine. Violence is not and will only destroy your message. Please, for the love of God, do not wave a Mexican flag, American flags, or nothing. So here's Adam Kinzinger saying, let me help you. Please get rid of the Mexican flags and the Venezuelan flags.
If you're over 35, be careful. This mixture.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I got to fix it.
So
we don't need to hear commercials.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's another one, though, Kathy, what he was starting to say, how you had some of these protesters and how they were flying the Mexican flag.
Right.
And protesting, and it just doesn't make sense. Like, how is it that you're flying the Mexican flag, you're protesting? Wouldn't you be like using your own,
Well,
flying the flag from the place that I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is the younger generation, Latinos, now think, because they're not being taught American history, and so they think that California, Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico, I believe, used to be Mexico territory.
Oh.
And I forget which war it was, but the United States back then, it was in the 1800s, purchased these states for $15 million, which would have been $15 million in the 1800s is billions today. Okay? We purchased the land from Mexico. We didn't steal it.
It was purchased.
It was purchased. But this younger generation say that, it's stolen, and that they want Mexico to have it back. So that's the reason for waving the Mexico flag and burning the American flag and holding up the what is going on with this? What was I saying? Oh,
no, you were saying that's why they're doing what they're doing, because of. So are they not teaching that in history?
No. And I when I was helping my son when he started being homeschooled towards the end of high school, he wanted to be homeschooled. He didn't want to go to high school anymore, which turned out to be the best thing, because he wasn't learning the garbage that they were teaching. But I was helping him with history because I'm a history nut. And I'm like, I'm going through this, and I'm like, this isn't right. This isn't true. Where is this? Where is that? And it's like they have rewritten. They're trying, these crazy left-wing liberals that are in charge of our education system are trying to rewrite history. History is history. You can't rewrite it. You can learn from it. And yes, bad things happened. Horrible things happen in history.
Horrible things. Yeah.
Horrible. But you can't deny that they happened, and you cannot cut them out of history.
Exactly.
All you can do is say, this happened, you know, and there are some people out there that are saying the Holocaust never happened. Well, if you say the Holocaust never happened, then you'll never learn, or the history leading up to the Holocaust on what it had happened is that it's going to repeat itself. And that's exactly what is happening right now with the fighting against the Jews, you know, and in, you know, the Ivy League schools, Harvard, you know, Columbia, all that stuff that's happening against Jews.
Know. Yes.
And that's why, you know, you have these kids siding with Palestine and Hamas and the Houthis, thinking they're great. Death to Israel. Well, no, if they had learned the Holocaust, they wouldn't be saying that.
Right.
So, yeah,
That's
it's just crazy. Okay, I got it up and fixed. So here we go. Hopefully this will work. So we're starting over. I do apologize.
More of the narrative here. Top of X today. In the news, Trump's unrequested guard deployment sparks LA riots. No, that's not what is happening, but the narrative is already shifting because they're very good at narratives. And some people know that, the protests look more like a Middle East color revolution. Did I say that out loud? Yes, I did. And on national broadcast. It's not a free speech protest. It has nothing to do with anything other than a color revolution. And adding Adam Kinzinger, he said, peaceful protests are fine. Violence is not and will only destroy your message. Please, for the love of God, do not wave a Mexican flag, American flags, or nothing. So here's Adam Kinzinger saying, let me help you. Please get rid of the Mexican flags and the Venezuelan flags. Today, now an independent reporter, quote, organizers of LA protests are now assembling and handing out American flags to protesters. This comes after days of footage showing them waving Mexican flags while torching cars, attacking police, and burning U.S. flags. It's clear they realize the current optics were a disaster. Now they're intentionally using American flags as an attempt to rebrand and reshape the existing media narrative of the riots. Every American flag I see still has creases. The protesters I've spoken to have also confirmed they are just being handed out to them. You got to love this. You got to love this. You take a bunch of mentally ill people, you soup them up, you put them on the streets. After you've trained them how to protest, you have lawyers in flak jackets all around to make sure that they're there in case anybody is arrested. They're logging anything in case anything can be misconstrued as a violation of their civil rights. The president sends in troops because what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're just going to let this go? And by the way, it's now in Dallas. It's in New York. It's supposed to be in Chicago. They're having another big day. What is it? What was it we were talking about earlier today? Jason Buttrill is with us.
No Kings.
No Kings. The No Kings protest. Okay. Against Donald Trump. That's going to be good. Hey guys, there's a bonfire over there. Anybody got some gasoline? And this is all part of a plan. And it's very, very well orchestrated. And you need to understand this so you can explain this to your friends. What you're seeing is not organic. It's not spontaneous. It is not the result of raw emotion bubbling up from the streets because ICE is just taking away these children and they're breaking them up from their families. No, they were arresting people as part of a raid on about drug cartels, but they also arrested people who have raped, who have murdered, who are the worst of the worst. That's what started all of this. But what you're watching now is a production. It's a script being followed by professional activists, period. Funded by organizations and deep, deep pockets that have deep roots in radical ideology. And if you understand the playbook, you get it. If you don't, you're gonna fall for the whole show again and again and again. So let me walk you through this. Over the weekend, all these hundreds of people took to the streets in LA. They blocked roads. They blocked the freeway. They attacked federal officers. They burned American flags. The headlines told us it was an outrage over ICE or immigration or injustice or whatever. But if you adjust, it's like almost like the news is a scratch lottery ticket. You don't have to dig. You just have to scratch the surface a little bit and you'll reveal everything you need to know. If you just scratch the surface, you'll see something very different. Coordinated, funded, strategized. These groups are not improvising. They are following tactics that were designed and refined by radical thinkers. People who taught this stuff in universities, wrote about it in activist handbooks. You don't believe me? Look up Beautiful Trouble. They trained organizers to weaponize emotion, chaos, optics. This is all carefully crafted. And this is where it gets dangerous because the whole thing is designed to bait law enforcement and politicians into overreacting. Why? Because if they can get a headline that says police crack down brutally on protesters, they win. Because one thing they took from Martin Luther King is optics matter. It's everything. They need to look like martyrs. And if anybody takes the bait, if the authorities come down too hard, too fast, they win the public relations war. Now, they are currently not winning it, but I think our Marines are being put into a very tough situation. And so is our president. What are you going to do? Nothing? But these people are very good at this, and they understand momentum. They understand that protests feed on energy. So what do? How do you stop things without playing right into their hands?
You're muted. You're muted.
But one of the things I would say that to push back on. So during the time of the protests that during the civil rights movement, the difference was they were just, unless there's some other information out there, they were just walking.
That wasn't the point he was making. That wasn't the point he was making.
No, I'm not pushing back against him. Yeah. I'm saying how the playbook, which I'm like how they may be wanting the officers to attack and to do something so it could show something. I'm like, but what they're doing, it's like they're spitting in people's faces. They are attacking. So if they were to retaliate, look what they're doing. And they're destroying property.
They want that, and they want that kind of violent optics. You have to remember, Martin Luther King, the marches for civil rights was a peaceful protest. It didn't turn into violence. It didn't turn into these riots. But also, at that time, there was only, 3 major channels? News channels? ABC, NBC, CBS? That was it. We didn't have cable TV. They didn't have the internet then to make this go viral. And it's been a generation of brainwashing our children to believe that this is the only way to make change. This was the long game of these radicals. to destroy America.
Wow.
And you know, when I was in school, there wasn't the big push to go to college. I mean, you were encouraged to go to college, but we weren't pushed into it. We are, you know, trade school, you know, something like that.
Okay.
And during and when we were in school, we had different classes of skills, of life skills, you know, where today they took all that away. I mean, you may still have an auto shop, but that's about it. You don't have home ec, you don't have cooking classes, you don't have wood shop, you don't have any of that anymore. And so all they do is they push the college agenda. And that's where these kids are getting brainwashed into believing this Marxist ideology of, you know, big government ruling and capitalism is wrong and all of that, and everybody needs to get their fair share and all of this.
Yeah.
You know, the distribution of wealth and who the government decides. So actually, Angela, I will show you, and actually the next clip, what these people were being paid will astonish you.
Oh, wow. So it's been proven they were getting paid.
Yeah.
They were getting paid.
Not all of the people that are protesting are paid actors, but the ones that come in and cite the violence are probably paid actors. Did you know that? So this all started last Friday.
Mm-hmm.
There were pallets of bricks delivered in strategic places, cinder block bricks. There were Molotov cocktails that were set up in strategic places.
Wow.
You know, it was organized. It was absolutely organized. And just like the BLM riots, but just like Black Lives Matter was funded by deep pockets and people with bad intentions.
Right.
Yes, mask for pepper spray. You know, as Glenn Beck said, they got lawyers standing around in flak jackets, bulletproof vests. That's a flak jacket. Bulletproof vest, waiting for these people to get arrested so they could go get them and protect their civil rights and all of this stuff.
Oh, wow.
So, but here,
wow.
So, you want to know how much they're being paid?
Yes.
Here we go.
How much?
This is a clip about an ad on Craigslist, which has now been taken down.
Oh, okay.
You know, when you have to go to Craigslist for your news, you know things, you're not being told everything. All right, look at this. Looking for the toughest badasses in the city of Los Angeles. I didn't cuss because I'm quoting, so there you go. Seeking extremely tough, brave men for new crew. Compensation $6,500 to $12,500 a week. We're forming a select team of the toughest dudes. You get paid every week, no matter what. Physical strength. We're recruiting for those hard, mental toughness, brave. These are LA riots. They're not organic, according to this post. They're orchestrated, well-funded chaos by Craigslist. Where do they get the money, Mark?
Did you catch that, you guys? $6,500 to $12,500 a week.
Per week? Per week?
Yes.
So see, that right there should tell you that the people who are funding this, they are really up there. This is a big organization or something. Because we're talking about a week?
A week. Deep pockets.
Wow. I know, right? Shireen, what incarnation? Exactly.
And he talked about let me scroll to that clip.
No wonder wow. They are taking wow. So is that each time they do it? If they go to the next city, they'll get paid that amount of money in the next city?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and he talked about the No Kings protest. So there is an organization out there, and I don't know how long they've been preparing for this. But I'm going to pull up this clip. I sent you this earlier. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it.
Let me see, which I'll be able to. See.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
This might be one of the most important videos I've ever made. This map right here, this is a map on nokings.org. Nokings, N-O-Kings.org. If you go there, you will see this along with everything else they have planned and orchestrated to start chaos and riots with protest on the 14th of this month, which is the parade, which is Donald Trump's birthday. Hold on. They go on and tell you why they're doing this, why it's important to do this, because Donald Trump is using taxpayer dollars to celebrate the military with a parade on his birthday party. The irony of that. What about the taxpaying dollars to, never mind. They'll explain everything on why they have to start these groups and these little cells everywhere to have massive protests. And it's absolutely horrific when you read it. Hold on. And then the days leading up to the 14th, they have calls, Zoom calls, nationwide calls. This one here is today, disappeared in America, mass call. Everyone has to get on. We got to spread this out. We got to spread this out and get this out to everybody. The cities they're everywhere that they're going to be doing this in. And if you think what's happening right now in California is bad, no wonder Trump is bringing in 7,000 troops. The Marines, the SEALs, and the Arsenal. Holy cow. How long do they have this planned? NoKings.org. Share with your friends. Get the word out. Love y'all.
Wow.
Hold on. It's real, guys. I'm pulling up the NoKings.org website.
That's the website, No Kings.
Yep.
You put it there.
Here it is. Maybe.
Oh.
Here we go.
Okay. And
there it is.
Wow, No Kings. NoKings.org.
So their narrative is that Donald Trump is a dictator and he wants to be king of America. This is all against Donald Trump. They've defiled our courts. Yeah. Deported Americans. They haven't deported any Americans. Disappeared people off the streets. Nobody's disappeared. Attacked our civil rights. If you're a citizen of the United States, you did not get attacked. If you're here illegally, there's no civil rights to be violated. you're not a citizen of the United States. Slashed our services, yes. Taken away Medicaid and Medicare from illegal migrants that are not citizens.
Right.
You know, you wonder why Social Security and Medicare are going to go broke. Because we're funding people that don't belong here, that have not come through the country. And mind you, I welcome people to want to come here and live in the United States. But please do it legally. Do it the right way.
Right. Well, that is, I mean, because if they get away with it, what about the ones who are trying to do it the right way?
Exactly. I know that it takes a long time, but still, let's. I haven't watched this video, so let's see what they have to say.
Okay.
Every day across this country, something powerful is happening. People are rising for each other, for democracy, and for our collective freedom. We have chosen not to live in fear or let division destroy this country. We believe in something bigger than ourselves and the promise of freedom and justice for all. But now our rights and our freedoms are under attack. We can point fingers or we can take action. This spring, millions of us united for one of the largest peaceful protests in the history of the United States. Together, we told Trump and his billionaire administration to keep their greedy hands off our healthcare, our veterans' benefits, our public lands, our rights. Courage is contagious, and now we're taking to the streets again on Saturday, June 14th for No King's Day. While Trump wastes tens of millions of taxpayer dollars on a military parade for his birthday, acting like a wannabe king, people in every state have organized over 1,800 events in their communities to uphold democracy and protect our rights. People standing side by side for the future we all deserve. We don't do kings in the United States. We believe power belongs with the people. Join us on Saturday, June 14th. Go to nokings.org to find the protest near you.
Wow.
You know, that's pretty deceptive because it's lies. Those services and everything has not been taken away from citizens, United States citizens.
Right.
And President Trump, the parade is not for President Trump, even though it happens to fall on his birthday, which it happens to be Flag Day, but we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States Army. That's what the parade is for. It's in honor of the Army.
Right. Because he is on his birthday. It's like they want to inflate it into something more.
Then it's not.
But it's, yeah.
It's sad. So this is a big thing. And here's a I can pull it up here. This is a post that Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna from Florida posted on X. And let's see if I can pull it up. Okay. I think we just had an earthquake. A little one. But I think I felt it. I think we just had an earthquake. I felt it. I could be mistaken, but I heard some, yeah. I'll check.
Whoa, you need, if that happened, can you check it? See if it just happened?
Yeah, I got an app on my phone.
Okay, truly things is happening. An earthquake, and you just kind of was like,
I said maybe. I don't know for sure.
well, I know. Oh my gosh.
Without the little
Okay.
shaking, it's nothing's posted yet. So maybe not. We happen all the time. So I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me blow it up. There we go. So today, I think this was today. Yeah. For the No Kings protests tomorrow, and guys, it's in all 50 states. They have groups in all 50 states.
So even in my state.
Yeah, every state.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So this is what she posted. All Americans need to be on high alert with nationwide No Kings protests this weekend. Online reports suggest outside agitators are planning to escalate violence in Trump gear to frame MAGA. So Ted and I were going to go to a rally tomorrow wearing our MAGA gear. We're not going.
You're not going?
Mm-mm. If you attend, do not wear MAGA gear. If you witness illegal activity, record faces and license plates and send it all to the FBI. Stay alert, stay smart. This is huge.
Wow. So this is my question. What do they hope to garner up by doing this?
You know, the No Kings.
What do they hope to get out of these protests?
The protests, are just like any American protest. You dislike something, you protest against it. That's our constitutional right. But the problem is these paid actors in recent history, and mainly since the BLM riots of 2020, the George Floyd thing, the radical liberals and the deep pockets who want to destroy America, they're employing people to come in. Antifa, they're paid actors. Antifa isn't a voluntary group. They're paid. And some of the people that came in during the 2020 riots weren't even citizens of the United States. They didn't even live here. They came in from other countries. So my concern is that for the last 4 years, close to 20 million people came over that border, and we don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
They were unvetted. So, we all knew in the back of our minds that a lot of them were military-aged men from the Middle East and China. Are they coming over here to do bad things? And is this the bad thing that's going to happen? And some other, people are saying that they're trying to recreate the summer of 2020 again, where it was riots all summer. And what it does, it depletes our services. It hurts us economically. It kills people. It destroys property. We have to call in the National Guard and all of this to defend. And if there's, what did they say, over 2,000 different scheduled protests this weekend in the United States. So
wow.
If they all turn violent at once, how do you defend all of that? How do you combat that? You get all the military involved?
But I don't really want to get the military involved. Because I think the military is so used to dealing with a certain type of people. I don't think they're used to being used in this capacity.
Well, not in this generation, no, but they're trained for it. They're trained for an attack on the United States.
Okay.
They're ready.
Hmm.
They have constant training. They're ready. It's just, it's just amazing that, and President Trump is right when you think about it, of what has happened in the last 4 years, and Biden letting the borders be open. It was an invasion.
Right.
It's like 9/11. Those actors had been in our country for quite some time.
Wow.
And what? It was a handful of them that caused the destruction and killed thousands of people. Is that going to happen again?
But
so yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
Okay, so not only are these organizations doing, wanting to protest and cause all this, but also the Mexican president.
Oh yeah, I heard about the. Mm-hmm.
So let me pull that up.
From the top down, like you were saying.
So let me remove this and cue this up.
I'm like, there's so much that could be talked about.
So this is in Spanish, but there are subtitles if you can see them. I can barely see them.
Okay.
But here she is.
Mexican brothers and sisters, you should go mobilize. Here she is. Read the subtitles if you don't speak Spanish. Watch.
Las mexicanas y los mexicanos que viven en Estados Unidos son hombres y mujeres de bien, son hombres honestos, que se fueron a Estados Unidos a buscar una mejor vida para ellos y para aportar a sus familias. No son criminales, son hombres y mujeres de bien. La quema de patrullas parece más un acto de provocación que de resistencia. Debe quedar claro, condenamos la violencia, venga de donde venga. Llamamos a la comunidad mexicana a actuar de manera pacífica y no caer en provocaciones.
All right, so show this. This is the U.S. Homeland Security News. Call to arms. The Mexican president calls on all Mexicans in the U.S. to protest in the United States. Here's the interesting thing, Josh. In Mexico, it is against the law, if you are not a native of that country, to involve yourself in any protest of any sort in their country. But yet she's calling people to protest in America.
She's calling for people to protest. Well, that is called an insurrection. So what is the definition of an insurrection? Well, let me tell you.
I was going to ask that. The kind of like, is it closely related to something else?
So. Definition of an insurrection. Oops. Where'd it go? There it is. A violent uprising against an authority or a government, typically involving rebellion or resistance by a group seeking to overthrow or undermine lawful power. let me ask you guys, is what's going on in our country right now an insurrection? Wouldn't you say that's what it is? Yeah. I would say it is too. So with that, it gives the president more authority. And the fact that, the president of Mexico is calling for Mexicans, Latinos to protest in the United States, that's also an insurrection. When a foreign country's government official so the key characteristics of an insurrection: violent or forceful resistance, not just protest or speech, directed against government authority, which that's what's going on. It's against the government authority, can be organized or spontaneous. This has been organized. Often includes attempts to seize control, block operations, which that's what they did. They were blocking ICE from doing what they needed to do in LA, and defy lawful institutions. So here's the legal definition under the U.S. Code. Whoever incites, sets foot on, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States or the laws thereof shall be fined or imprisoned, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. There you go. What does the Bible say about it? Romans 13:2. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. How about that? And that's what's going on in our nation. And that's exactly what's going on tomorrow. And, man, we have to pray. The church has to pray. We have to come against this evil in the name of Jesus. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. So, but that's not the only lunatic thing that has happened. Yesterday, do we all know that the California senator got taken out of a press conference and handcuffed by the FBI?
Was that the FBI? Or was her name? Christy? It was at Christie's.
Christy
yes.
Nome. So
yes.
This is a long clip, but it is so good. And it's a monologue. Shireen, this will explain why. I won't ruin the surprise. But anyway, here we go.
Washington was embarrassing enough. We really didn't need this one. But a stunt so stupid today, it's becoming impossible to believe that the Democrat Party actually has any real organic support. Today, Alex Padilla, a dim-witted first-term senator from California, decided to burst into the middle of Secretary Kristi Noem's press conference when she was live on national television, literally as she was speaking, and have himself a viral moment. Padilla knew full well he was going to be restrained. He knew exactly what he was doing. He is a mediocre, relatively unknown politician who was not wearing a suit, who burst into a room aggressively and started yelling at the Secretary of Homeland Security, barking like a random, unstable guy that just jumped in off the street, wearing street clothes, too. He's not wearing a suit. His full intention was to be accosted by security, as you can see here, and to go viral. We're going to play it out for you so you can enjoy the entire thing uninterrupted.
Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
If you're over 35, be careful. This mixture can melt so much weight that it'll look like you got lipo.
Okay, I think we're talking to someone, but did we see what was happening and how that man was reacting? And then he tried to spin it in a different way once they talking to him.
Yeah. Let me see if I can get back to where we were. It may overlap. I hate when it does that. Sorry about that, guys.
Mediocre, relatively unknown politician who was not wearing a suit, who burst into a room aggressively and started yelling at the Secretary of Homeland Security, barking like a random, unstable guy that just jumped in off the street, wearing street clothes, too. He's not wearing a suit. His full intention was to be accosted by security, as you can see here, and to go viral. We're going to play it out for you so you can enjoy the entire thing uninterrupted.
Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
This Nimrod is on every cable channel tonight. He's doing an interview right now on MSNBC. Of course he is. You see him fighting with the guards, pushing back, shoving his way through. He knew he needed to find a way to get detained because that was the key to getting on MSNBC tonight. After he was tackled and then verified to actually be a U.S. Senator, because he could have been lying, he could have been somebody there to kill Kristi Noem. After all of that, he actually still got a 15-minute meeting with the Secretary of Homeland Security. After such a ridiculous stunt, she still met with him. A credit to her, right? And then right after that meeting, what do? Oh, he ran outside, jumped on TV, and literally cried, portraying himself as the victim of an unconscionable assault by a fascist regime.
I was there peacefully. At one point, I had a question. And so I began to ask a question. I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was forced to the ground, and I was handcuffed.
I was just there to ask a question. So like any normal person, I burst into the room and ran straight towards the Homeland Security Secretary screaming, because that's what normal people do when they have a question for somebody. They just burst into the room while they're on TV and start screaming. And then I was handcuffed. Oh. Losers. He's such a loser. From the LA Times, this is how the media is going to spin this, by the way. They're going to turn this into the greatest tragedy you've ever seen. LA Times, first they came for the immigrants, then they took down our Latino senator. This is how fake it is. We are living in the Twilight Zone. Democrats, of course, exploded, getting together to march for Padilla at the Capitol. Quote, "We're marching to Senator Thune's office. There must be accountability for the detainment of a U.S. senator. This is not normal." That's from Congressman Maxwell Frost, a guy who couldn't even get an apartment in Washington because his credit was so bad. So these are the kinds of people and the quality of people that are going to stir this up. And of course, the media is going to play along perfectly. You're going to be hearing about this forever. Maxwell Frost couldn't wait to jump on the bandwagon for this publicity stunt, demanding accountability for the detainment of a senator. That's what he said. Just one problem. Even Padilla says he wasn't detained.
I was forced to the ground, and I was handcuffed. I was not arrested. I was not detained.
Yeah, not detained. Probably trying to avoid slandering the Department of Homeland Security with a blatant lie and the consequences that could come from that. He had to be a little bit careful there. This is so stupid. Listen to this.
If this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country.
He cried the whole time. He put together a planned stunt and then cried. Again, the line, one of my favorite lines. Washington is Hollywood for ugly people. Politics is Hollywood for ugly people. It's so true. They're all just terrible actors. That's not how they treat a senator, he says. No, it's not. That is how they treat a lunatic in street clothes barging into a room during a televised news conference on national TV and hurling himself toward one of the most important people in the country. Again, no suit. He doesn't have a name tag that says Alex Padilla. He's only been in the Senate for 4 years. He's not very well known. He's a very mediocre person, a very mediocre senator. Would you recognize, how many there's 500 or so congressmen and senators? You know how they all look? Does anybody? Do the people that guard Nome have any idea? No, they don't know. He was just saying that. He could be a guy there to kill her. The stunts by this party are so embarrassing that it hurts. And the fake outrage over this planned event is even more painful.
A United States senator was manhandled, shoved to the ground, and cuffed. This is the stuff of dictatorship.
If you think it stops with one, you are inviting it for the all, because it does not. You are inviting it for every member of this body.
Donald Trump is making this nation look more and more like a fascist state.
I just saw something that sickened my stomach. The manhandling of a United States senator. We need immediate answers to what the hell went on.
It's so stupid. I don't know how many times I can say that to you. It's the most visceral feeling. It's pouring out of me. This is all that they have, this behavior. They're desperate to stop something Americans voted for. They're desperate to stop something they know shouldn't be stopped. They're fighting for something deeply unpopular right now, and that is wide open borders in a wealthy first world country, something that they know will decimate the nation they're fighting for. It will destroy the nation, and it will do it quickly. And that's what they're fighting for. The only way that they can fight this fight is with smoke and mirrors. They have to paint basic fundamental border and law enforcement as fascism. That's all they can do. And this today is going to be their latest example of what fascism does. Oh, they tackled a Latino senator. He just wanted to ask a question, and they tackled him and cuffed him to the ground because they're all fascists. That's what it is. Everybody's reporting the same stories.
See, that point though, to stage this thing to look at me, look at all I wanted was blah, blah, blah. And they shoved me to the ground. They handcuffed me. They this, they that. What did he think was going to happen? They didn't know who he was. He was dressed like street clothes. He barged into a meeting, and who knows? They probably could. He could have been somebody there to do something to that lady.
Well, yeah, and and he said, that I'm a United States senator, and they should know who I am. She should know who I am, because later on, in another interview, Kristi Noem says, I didn't know who he was, and I'm like, and so he's saying, well, I'm a senator. You should know who I am. The thing is, there's 460 something Congress people in Congress, and there's 100 senators. She's new in Washington. She was the governor of South Dakota. How is she supposed to know every single person by their face? You may know them by their name, but you're not going to know them by their face. And he's a junior senator. He is a senator of California, and he took Kamala Harris's place when she became vice president. That's how he got to be a senator.
But look at this. She probably also, okay, he said she should have known who he was. He's a senator. But then also she probably was like, no senator is going to react like that.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
what about
and
that?
She was in the middle of her press conference on live television, mind you. And she was going to have question and answers after she was done giving her brief. He should have, where's the decorum? That's one of the things that I find, and I understand, we as a society has gotten very lax. There's no more formality. In certain professions, you wear suits. Like as a realtor, I used to always wear a suit. When I worked in LA County, I wore a suit or a nice dress, something, a nice pantsuit. But when I moved out here to Riverside area, it got very casual. It's business casual. And the thing is, he wasn't wearing a suit. He wasn't wearing his senator pin. So, of course, they didn't know who he was. And to somebody's point, he did go in there like a bull in a china shop.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yelling at her. How unprofessional is that? You're a representative of the state of California.
Right. Well, it is California. I'm sorry, Kathy. California. I mean, start California. Oh my goodness.
Not only that, let's see if I can find it.
I could say the doodles. Oh gosh. Let me stop.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again because it even gets loonier. So we have a lunatic senator busting in on a news conference for Homeland Security Secretary. And now, get this.
Get this, John Basham posts this, tweet 6 here, guys. California wants to secede from the U.S. The current California Secretary of State, Shirley Weber, announced a new initiative for the state to secede and make the Cali an independent nation. It's been authorized to begin collecting signatures. The initiative is in its preliminary stage, represents a significant political movement within the state. It's not a joke. Pastor Hank, they're really doing this.
They want California to be their own country. I mean, for years, they wanted to split California in half, have Southern California and Northern California. But it could never happen because Northern California could never sustain itself because most of the commerce is in Southern California. But now they want to secede from the Union of the United States. It's like these people are whacked. You cannot make this stuff up.
This is wow. That's wow, Kathy. Her state is wild.
Yeah. I just wow. And these lunatic people keep voting these people in. And I pray for the midterms, next year, that
I know.
instead of 40% red, it's even 50, I'll give 51% red. 51% red would change things.
Right.
That's all I'm asking. 51%.
Wow.
But, I believe the California state constitution, the only state in the United States that has a provision for seceding from the union is Texas. We don't have a provision in there. So it's going to be an act of God to succeed from the United States. California is not going to be able to do it. And they're not going to be able to do it when they're $65 billion in debt. Newsom has run up a bill of $65 billion in debt.
$65 billion. So if that happened, if they disseceded from the United States, would they have to pick their own president, come up with their own currency, do all that?
Yep. And their own military, everything. My husband
it would have to be everything.
Yeah. My husband goes, the minute that happens, we're leaving. He wants to move anyway. So get out of California. I just, you cannot make this stuff up. You can't.
Wow, it's playing out in real time. Well,
yeah. It's craziness.
Well, there was another big thing, Kathy, that happened today.
Today? Which thing are you talking about?
Iran attacking Israel.
Iran didn't attack Israel. Israel attacked Iran first because there was a 60-day ceasefire, and last night on the 61st day, and mind you, it's not something that just automatically happened. Israel has been planning this attack for 8 months.
Okay.
They attacked Iran, and they killed some very high-ranking officials in the Iranian government. They were specific targets. They also hit some of their military and have wounded their military and all of that. Today, Iran has retaliated and is just bombing the heck out of Israel here and there.
Why did they do that? Why did they do that?
Because they are such a threat, and they would not negotiate with President Trump. And that was, you could see this coming because 2 days ago, President Trump ordered the evacuation of the our embassy in Iraq of non-essential personnel.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
He had ordered the evacuation. He knew what was coming. And
he knew it was.
Yeah. And I know Jack Hibbs posted a video that said that he was disappointed that he didn't think that President Trump had Israel's back. But in reality, he does have Israel's back. And what he was trying to do was to stop this war by diplomacy, getting them to come to a treaty, which is probably never going to happen. I can tell you this, that the United States is still going to back Israel. We will continue to supply them with military equipment.
Yeah.
Because a lot of their military equipment is from the United States. And President Trump even put out a post on True Social that the Iranians better look out because our military equipment, their military equipment is top notch because it is from the United States. So, yeah, and I have to disagree with Jack Hibbs that I really think that President Trump would never turn his back on Israel. And we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't.
And that's true. And just because he may not show all his cards or say everything, he's not going to do that.
Right.
Because he's being strategic and all the other. And so, yeah, I agree. Now, someone else in office, I wouldn't know. I would be like, but I agree with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, let me, with that said, before our last clip, we have an announcement. And it's going to be okay. With a lot of prayer and, a lot of prayer and a lot of counsel. I have a lot going on in my life right now. I don't want to get into the specifics of stuff, but I'm also facing an upcoming surgery, a hip replacement that could happen anytime after July 1st. And with the other things that are going on in my life and all of that, I had to make some very hard decisions. And one of the decisions that I had to make was to step away from Faith and Freedom, a conversation, for a little while. That doesn't mean that Faith and Freedom conversation isn't going away. And, we haven't been on regularly, and that's because of me and what's been going on in my life. And I haven't been able to, there's a lot that goes on, a lot goes into putting on this show for you guys. A lot of research, a lot of time. And right now I got to focus my time elsewhere. So this will be my last show for a while. When I'm able, I will be coming back on. LaTanya is going to keep it going. She's going to have guests, and she's also looking for a temporary co-host for her. And so I'm going to miss you all. I'm not going to cry. But I'm going to miss you all. But I will be back. I will be back. So.
Yes. So if I can just say something really quick. Yes. I have to tell you, Kathy, I didn't tell you this, but when you had mentioned when we talked yesterday, and I was like, oh no. A part of me was like, Kathy, you're not going. Now, what I mean by that, I'm talking about like, the whole, and mentioned what you said, how you was going to need to take just take kind of a backseat a little bit. I was like, it was a breather, like okay, but then I get it, and your health and the other things, that is very important. So you're going to be missed, but it's like Kathy was saying, everything is it's still going to be the same format. Sometimes if we don't have anyone, it might be open mic. But we tried that. We did that before. So it's still the same.
Yeah, it went well. The open mic did.
It did. Open mic did. Yes, it did. But it'll still be the same. Still, Faith, that all of this is still going to be the same. It's just that temporarily, there will be like guests, and we wanted to do that anyways. Wanted to bring on, the plan too was to bring on guests, and Kathy, when she can, she did say when she, yes. So she's not like totally the host when she can. When it fits in her schedule, all of that, then Kathy will be with us. And yeah, so.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate your prayers. I will also be praying for you as well.
Yes. Yes.
So I didn't tell you about this, LaTanya, but it's Father's Day weekend. It's Father's Day weekend. And on Flashpoint last night, there was a great segment from the CEO of Promise Keepers. And I'd like to play it before we go off the air.
Promise Keepers. Shane, you posted this. I want to play this message for men that you put out there. Watch.
When I think about 1 Timothy 3, when it talks about the qualifications for a leader in the church, it's to be the man of one wife. That is the standard for a leader in the house of God. That is what every man should strive to be, is the man of one wife, training his child up in the ways of the Lord so that when he grows old, he won't depart, Proverbs 22:6. It's like, listen, man, when are you going to move on past being a boy and become a man? I think when we can stop being driven by sensual stuff and encounters and experiences and begin to go, man, how can I live this thing out and honor God in the process? Because you know what? There's a day coming when I'm going to stand before him, and I want to live a life that honors him in the sacrifice of his son. If we can accurately portray that message to the men of America, I pray, their hearts will be open and God will draw them by his spirit.
Shane, I love what you're doing with Promise Keepers and the shift that's happened there. And as Ben said earlier, we have a real lack in America of understanding the role of men. Men have been minimized, men have been put to the side. And as we are coming into Father's Day weekend, we need to really celebrate fatherhood. I like your hat. Make dads great again.
Thanks.
I think that's really great. It's really great. But how are we going to make this shift? How are we going to help men finally understand not to be this emaciated, feminized, women tainted, whatever has happened to the male generation here in America? How are we going to make that shift?
Yeah, and I appreciate it. And these hats are available, by the way, at promisekeepers.org/MDGA. There's a couple of ways that we attack this. One is what we're doing through our Make Dads Great Again campaign. We're launching a series of commercials that are just pro-fatherhood. We're showing people with, videos that words can't possibly touch, that area of their heart where they see, a dad being a dad. We put out a girl dad video. We just launched a boy dad video today. And, millions of views, thousands of comments of people saying, I wish that I could meet someone so that I could have a family like this. And I think that we have to do a good job of showing how incredible it is to be a father, because we were created to be parents. That was the first mandate on Adam and Eve from God, was to be fruitful and multiply. I think the second piece of that not only is to show how awesome it is to be a father, but it's also to balance it with truth. And the Bible says that a man who doesn't care for his family, speaking of a Christian, is worse off than an unbeliever. And it's this idea that we have a responsibility as men to be the priest, provider, and protector of our home, training our children, washing our wives with the word of God. And unfortunately, 1 in 4 children in America grow up without a father. And when I was a cop south of Seattle, I would pick up these teenagers off the street that were riddled with bullet holes, and I would have to call their moms to come identify the body because they didn't have a dad. And the reality is that when dads are absent from the home, all of the stats get worse, not better. And so we have to be intentional about building up the American family.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben, I want you to comment first, and I'll go to Lance. Men, dads, they're important. You got small children at home. You know more than any of us what that means like this day and age.
Yeah, this is the foundation of our nation. It's also what is causing our nation to crumble. It's sissified men. It's men that have accepted the lie that they are not the leaders of their households. It's women that have accepted the lie that their husbands are not the leaders of their households. It's men that don't love their wives like Christ loved the church. It's women that don't respect their husbands. And that's why you see this chaos. We rejected God as a nation. We rejected the foundation of the pillar of the family. And when you do that, the family crumbles. When the family crumbles, society crumbles. And so that's why you see this. And actually, it's a great pivot back to why we see all this unrest in the streets, why you have all these Marxist, communist Glenn Beck said it really great. These acting going on out in the streets, it all comes back to that. When you don't have that good foundation, when you don't have good role models, when the church, you've got all these splintered churches, these communist churches that are pro-abortion and pro-homosexuality and pro just debauchery. They've been deceived by the devil. This is what you get. And how do you fix that? You get the foundations back. You bring God back into your life. If you're a husband, you get right with your wife. If you're a wife, you get right with your husband, and you get right with your children. And then you build from there. It's pretty simple, but each one of us have to do it.
Yeah, Lance, you were a pastor for a long time as well. And anybody that's been in church leadership, whether you've been a pastor or a worker, or you just go there, you notice there's a whole lot more women there than there are men. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. And it's almost like this, we're reaping the decades of men not being involved in church for whatever reason. But we must get guys back in church and understand it's not a sign of weakness. I don't know how that got out there, but it almost became, if you're going to church, you're weak. You're not a real man. Just stand up and do it. Lance, on fatherhood, talk to us.
Well, Gene, this goes in a bit of radical theology here, but Jesus said that, the Ephesians, it says that he ascended on high and gave gifts to men. Some apostles, some prophets, some evangelists, some pastors, some teachers. To a great extent, we've turned over the formation of the church to the pastors, and the pastors are the caring part. They're the heart of the church. But if you eliminate the prophetic voice, if you eliminate apostolic fathers, people that have a strong sense of the big picture and the government of what God's doing in the kingdom on the earth, then you only hear one part of the message of Jesus. What's happened is, as church attendance went down, a sociologic shift to the right took place because Donald Trump came on the scene with a remarkable psychic footprint when he was shot and bleeding, and he stood up and said, fight, fight, fight. You can mark sociologically from that moment till today, young men began to resonate with a different image of what a man is, and you saw a 20% seismic shift to conservative curiosity. Then you see it played out with Joe Rogan, and you see it played out with other people who are affirming men as a protector as well as a caregiver. And so what's happening now is you're seeing, I got taken to task by a woman the other day on a call. She said women are also rising up. Riley Gaines is another one, who are healthy women, who are no longer vulnerable, but speaking up for truth. So here's the good news. Pride Month got a lobotomy this month. It has 50% of the funding and the participation. Something is happening in America we should note and celebrate. The rioting on the streets is going to be an opportunity for men to speak up and say that's lawless, that's disrespectful, that's manipulative. I don't like being manipulated by well-funded anarchists. You'll see that the disposition of America is different than it was 4 years ago, and that's an answer to prayer.
It sure is. All right, before I go, I'm running out of time. I want to show this because watch this today. This is a phenomenal video here, Shane, that you guys did. Make dads great again. Get your Kleenex. Watch.
Dad.
Daddy.
Seems like just yesterday. We were playing in the yard. You were showing me how to ride a bike. Now I've got a family of my own. Where did the time go? I just wanted to say, thanks for everything.
Thanks for everything.
I love you, Dad.
I love you, Dad. Dad.
Make dads great again. Excellent.
Yep. Get the Kleenex. So happy Father's Day to everyone out there. God bless you all.
Yeah. Happy Father's Day. Wow.
So I love you all. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna miss you all.
But you're just temporarily. It's just a temporary just a little temporary break. Just a little temporary, but
yeah.
Your stamp is all over Faith and Freedom. And so and that's also Kathy in prayer of what she has mentioned. Let's see where you're going. Oh, she didn't. She
Yeah, I have to step away for a little while. So I got a lot on my plate and a lot of prayer, and I even talked to Pastor Sean about all of this. So yeah, I need to step away for a while. So anyway,
but Faith and Freedom will continue.
Yes,
and everything will still be the same, except there will be. I want to have guests on, and then a temporary co-host. And when
Shireen, I nominate Shireen.
Yes.
I nominate Shireen. Would be a great temporary co-host.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're putting you on the spot, Shireen. Uh-oh, did she go? Did she leave?
I don't know. Did she?
I don't know, but no way. I politically, but that would make it exactly.
You learn.
Like I had to learn, and I'm still learning. So
Latanya didn't know much. I'm continuing to learn.
Exactly.
I don't know everything.
Exactly. So think about it. And Kathy will join whenever she can, whenever it's feasible for her. She'll be here. She'll be on.
Yeah.
But that's what it's about. I knew nothing. Well, I knew a little something. I will say that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But we got to keep the message of this show going.
Yes.
We need to inspire other Christians to get involved and vote, because a lot of them don't vote, and that's been the problem, and that's the reason our nation's in the turmoil that it's in right now. So I'm the queen. No, I'm not.
Oh, wait a minute. There we go.
No. But it's really important, that we get involved, because our lack of involvement. Look at where we are. So that's still on my heart. I'm not going to stop praying for this country and talking to everybody that I can about, being involved in politics. We need that. We need godly leaders, guys. We need godly leaders in our government. You just saw the circus, the lunacy of, Senator Padilla yesterday. Yeah. That's embarrassing. It's disgusting. And those are our leaders. And it's more than half, because I know we're barely, divided between Democrat and Republican, but even there's Republicans that need to go.
But you know what? I will say this. Someone said this. They said that the party from what we see now, you can't even really call it a party.
No.
Now of what they're doing. You know,
No.
you can't even really call it a party. It's really something else because of their hatred for Donald Trump. Or you know, or so they're like, even other Democrats are like, we cannot even call this a party. It's gone way off the chain. And like you said, there are rhinos as well. But at least it hadn't gone off the chain like what is happening on that side. And also I wanted to say really quick, Elon, I saw where it's mentioned Elon and Donald Trump. You probably have seen that, what's out there, but it appears that they have kind of made their amends.
Yeah, they made
up.
Their rift is over.
Yes.
Their rift is over.
Which I figured it probably would be.
They had
with
a spat.
And it was out in the open. And if anything, maybe we can learn from women. Can maybe learn from men. You see, they had it, and you know, if that was women, it would be. Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
it would be a
cat
fight. It would be a cat fight that would linger on. Yes, but
yeah. So there's a lot of work to still be done. It's just unfortunate with my situation that's going on right now. And it's not just the surgery coming up. It's a lot of things going on in my life right now. But I will also ask you guys to pray for my son, because he's he re-enlisted and he will be going to a new duty station soon, which is far away from me. He's been close all this time. But he's going to be far away, and this mama is going to have a problem with it. This Navy mom's going to have a big. I cried almost every day that he was in boot camp. Yeah. But God's got his back. You know, it's all good. So if you keep him up in prayers for me, I appreciate that too. And Connie, I'm glad. Matthew.
So we can remember the first book in the Bible, in the New Testament, Matthew.
That Matthew meaning is a gift from God, and that he is.
Oh, wow.
So Connie, thank you for letting me know that you voted because of my influence. I appreciate that. So if we can encourage one another, we can have a better place to live in than what this is. So with that said, I love you all. I wish you all a good night. Until the next time I see you.
Take care, everybody.
God bless.
Love you all. God bless.